Pope Francis authorized the canonization of Venezuelan physician Jose Gregorio Hernandez. In Peru, prosecutors summoned President Dina Boluarte for corruption and cover-up in the Cali Warma and presidential treasury cases. De facto Syrian President Abu Mohammed al-Zulani, renamed Ahmed al-Shara, opened the National Dialogue Conference in Damascus. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Vatican issued the first update on Pope Francis' health on Tuesday, reporting that he had a good night's rest. The Supreme Pontiff has been in a hospital in Rome for almost 2 weeks. In the last 2 days, although his condition is complex, he has shown a slight improvement, and doctors and the Holy See Press Office say that he's not out of the danger. The Catholic faithful of the world, coordinated by the churches or spontaneously, have united in prayers and petitions for the health of Francis. On the last day, the presidents of Cuba, the United States, and Venezuela once again wished him a speedy recovery. And Pope Francis authorized to canonize the Venezuelan Jose Gregorio Hernandez. On a statement, the Supreme Pontiff approved the favorable votes of the ordinarization of the Cardinal Fathers and Bishops, members of the dicastery for the causes of saints. By this official announcement, the Holy See formally stated that the popularity known as Doctor of the Poor will be declared a saint, which date hasn't been set yet. This is the first time the Catholic Church proclaimed a Venezuelan faithful saint. The decision was grounded on the vast legacy of Gregorio Hernandez, who has been devoted by not only Venezuelans but also Latin Americans and Caribbeans.
With great joy, I can announce that today our beloved Pope Francis approved the positive opinion of the cardinals and bishops of the dicastery for the causes of beatification and canonization. He has approved the virtues of our dear blessed Jose Gregorio, who will soon be a saint. Pope Francis will convene a cardinal session where the date of canonization will be announced. May God give much health and life to our dear Pope Francis. And may we soon celebrate the canonization here in Rome, and in Caracas a solemn mass to give thanks to God for this great gift.
And during his program Con Maduro Más, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, condemned the media campaign that seeks to criminalize Venezuelan migrants regarding the arrival of 242 nationals through the planned return to the homeland. The president recalled that the Venezuelan migration was the result of the offensive campaign of criminal sanctions imposed by the United States. In this regard, President Maduro highlighted the work of the government in defense of the country's sovereignty by dismantling criminal groups operating under the orders of former Colombian presidents Iván Duque and Álvaro Uribe in complicity with the Venezuelan far right.
That was a design they made in the United States, together with these bandits. They made the design to accuse Venezuela, the whole country, of supporting the Aragua train. We knew in time and launched those offensives. Remember the deliberation of plans of all the jails beginning with Tocaron and the offensive against all the successful criminal bands we had. Because they came with that game, and with a game that was to use the criminal bands in the jails to attack several cities in the country, to make them chaotic and to say that there was chaos in Venezuela and to ask for intervention. Everywhere you see it, it's something devilish and dirty. They stigmatize the name of Venezuela. The name of the Venezuelan migrant, they stigmatized it. They're the fascist rats.
In the north of the Venezuelan capital, the coffee harvest season is coming to an end. Our colleague Chad Duffel went to meet small farmers who carried out their first production after 2 years of work with ecological techniques.
El Parque Nacional Guaraíra Repano, situado en la cordillera
The Guaraíra Repano, or Avila National Park, located in the coastal mountain range, is a green lung bordering the city of Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. There, 2 years ago, the farmers of the Laderas estate began to plant coffee, finding in the height of the mountains and in the shade of the forest the ideal conditions for the production of the plant. However, it was a bigger challenge than it seemed, given that part of the land had been deforested by previous owners.
The forest is better because of the humidity and shade. We are recovering trees, planting them all over to get good shade. You know that the best coffee, supposedly, is in the shade.
El suelo empobrecido por
The soil, impoverished by decades of chemical use, also had to be recovered with organic fertilizers and environmentally friendly techniques.
We are trying to create a new topsoil with chicken manure, horse manure, all totally organic, from here, from the area. It is all handcrafted, organic and handmade.
Según los principios de la agroforestería.
According to agroforestry principles, the sustainable balance lies in crop diversity, which also brings advantages for the producer.
Integrating the coffee element into an ecosystem without breaking the ecosystem. Shade production, a productive shade. That the producer can benefit from the shade, in addition to the benefit for the coffee. The shade could have some added value, like planting avocado and soursop trees. In other words, to integrate a whole positive project around regenerative agriculture.
This
February, the first coffee beans were harvested from the farm, but there are still some steps to be taken before they reach the consumer. The artisanal process requires care and a lot of patience.
It is quite a long process. Harvesting it, fermenting it, drying it in the sun, it takes a long time. Then we take it to roast it, so that it reaches the public, the cup.
The expectations are good because, in spite of some points that were missed, I believe that the coffee was harvested at its optimum moment. We did a process to improve, to modulate the flavors, in terms of fermentation. We already have a small batch that was threshed a few hours ago. The first visual of the coffee is spectacular, so I think it promises to be pretty good.
Venezuela fue en el pasado uno de los principales productores.
In the past, Venezuela was one of the world's main producers and exporters of coffee, but production dropped during the second half of the 20th century due to the predominance of oil. Today, the new expansion of coffee in the country in the framework of economic diversification is an opportunity to rethink the means of production, as was done in the Laderas. In this sense, Venezuelan coffee, on top of meeting internal demand, has a great potential to compete in the world market, as a growing demand requires constant upgrade in production quality.
Chada Fol, desde Caracas para teleSUR.
We have a first short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Peruvian prosecutors summoned President Dina Boluarte for corruption and cover-up in the Cali Warma and presidential treasury cases. The president of Peru, Dina Boluarte, will testify for the second day in a row on Tuesday after being questioned about the alleged use of the presidential car for the escape of the leader of the Peru Libre political party, Vladimir Cerrón. In the previous session, President Boluarte also answered nearly 50 questions in an interrogation that lasted more than 5 hours. The Public Prosecutor's Office expects the President to attend again, although it has not yet been confirmed whether she will testify while the Public Prosecutor's Office evaluates the evidence and the development of the case. And more than half of Ecuador's workers are in the informal sector, the National Institute of Statistics and Censuses announced on Monday. A survey for January 2025 shows that the figure has increased by 1.4% compared to last January and is the highest recorded in the country since 2007. According to the data, only 34% of the country's workforce is formally employed. This huge increase which puts informal employment at 56%, means that these workers lack work guarantees, security holidays, and social security, among other important conquests of the workers' struggle. Meanwhile, in Bolivia, the government started up a steel plant that will produce 200,000 tons of iron-derived construction materials per year and require an investment of over $500 million. Our correspondent Freddy Morales with the details.
The plant is located in Puerto Suarez, near the Brazilian border, and will use iron from El Cerro Mutin, one of the world's iron ore reserves.
The truth is that it is a great satisfaction for me, today as municipal mayor of Puerto Suarez, to witness and represent those generations that have fought tirelessly for more than 80 years to see this dream come true.
The steel complex will produce 200,000 tons of steel per year in a first phase, which means half of these materials that the country has been importing until now.
Now that we are going to put this complex into operation and we are going to start producing steel, we will generate more than 700 direct jobs and more than 2,000 indirect jobs. This is what the steel complex represents in social terms.
President Luis Arce recalled that the financing of the complex used state resources and a loan from the government of China.
This is an investment of $546 million where there are three actors involved to finance. First, the financing of the Chinese government, whom we thank infinitely, as well as the brother ambassador of that country, through him. A big hug to brother Xi Jinping. Second, the resources of the central bank with a credit. And finally, to complete all this, the general treasury of the nation that is being invested, along with resources that are here to invest and fulfill the dream of so many Bolivians.
The complex will produce rebar and wire rod in its first phase.
This is a clear demonstration that the Bolivian state has to be and is the fundamental actor to advance towards the industrialization of our country. Industrialization is not just a story, it is a reality. We are showing the whole country that it is possible to industrialize the country, that this depends on the political decision of a government determined to build a solid and diversified economy in our country.
The Mutin iron ore deposit is one of the largest reserves of this mineral, with 40,000 million tons. Its production of 200,000 tons per year means that the state will save some $250 million in foreign currency that it used to spend on this import.
Freddy Morales, teleSUR, Bolivia.
On Monday, heavy rains and thunderstorms hit Cuba's western region. Authorities reported flooding in Havana. The General Staff of the Civil Defense advised to take protective measures, while authorities said that the rapid advance of the cold front to the west and center of the country will bring more rain and thunderstorm. In this context, a miner crossing a flooded street fell through a drain. Authorities are carrying out search and rescue efforts. We now have a second short break coming up before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Israeli occupation continues its aggression on the city of Jenin and its refugee camp for the 36th consecutive day. To date, the Zionist operation in Jenin has left 27 Palestinians dead, dozens of injuries and detentions amidst widespread destruction of property and infrastructure. The number of displaced people from the camp has reached 20,000 and about 430 homes have been completely or partially destroyed. 2,000 students have been deprived of attending their schools, and about 178 people from the city and the camp have been detained since the beginning of the aggression. More than 160 doctors and medical personnel from Gaza are currently being held in Israeli prisons undergoing severe mistreatment and torture. Human rights organizations such as Human Rights Watch and Physicians for Human Rights Israel have denounced the arbitrary arrests and inhumane treatment of the detainees. Among the prisoners is the director of the Kamal Adwan Hospital, Hussam Abu Safia, who was arrested during a military operation in December. The detention of these professionals has significantly weakened the health system in Gaza, which was already under enormous pressure due to the recent conflicts. These actions have been described as a violation of international law, which protects health workers in armed conflict. De facto Syrian President Abu Mohammed al-Julani, renamed as Ahmed al-Shara, opened the National Dialogue Conference in Damascus. The initiative aimed at outlining a political future for the country after the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad did not start off on the right foot. The Turkish party denounced that, like other groups, they have been marginalized. The main session, intended to discuss the structure of a new constitution and the creation of new institutions, among other issues, is being seriously questioned. In the south, protests broke out against the submission of the de facto government to Zionist plans. And on Tuesday, International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan arrived in Kinshasa amid possible cases of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The M23 rebel group's offensive in the east of the African nation has left more than 7,000 dead and countless wounded. ICC Chief Prosecutor Khan reminded the army and the rebel groups that no one has a blank check and that they must comply with international humanitarian law. The ICC prosecutor held a meeting with Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and UN Special Envoy Bintou Keita. And Russian President Vladimir Putin is considering proposing to the United States the opportunity to work together in the field of rare earth elements. The Russian head of state said that Moscow holds more rare earth elements in comparison with Ukraine, so it is ready to work with its foreign partners, including the U.S., in different structures. President Putin refused to comment on the possible agreement between Washington and Kiev concerning Ukrainian mineral resources. The Russian executive reiterated that the upcoming talks with Donald Trump's administration will be fully focused on the strengthening of bilateral relations. The Russian head of state stressed that the country must adapt to the development of the rare earth elements in order to compete successfully on global markets and in turn create a solid foundation for the long-term development of the economy.
Of course, we have to adapt to these dynamics in order to compete successfully on world markets and create a solid basis for the long-term and confident development of the Russian economy. In order to increase the potential of the domestic industry in the field of new materials, a national technology leadership project has been launched this year. It is called New Materials in Chemistry. In particular, within the framework of the national project, the whole range and the complete cycle of the rare metals and rare earth elements industry will be established, their extraction and processing will be ensured, even the production of high-tech finished products with high added value. The production of such products, as a result of the national project, should multiply.
In this regard, the president stressed that the Kiev regime refused to have contact with his government and emphasized that the meeting in Riyadh between the United States and his country was aimed at increasing the level of trust between the two nations.
They themselves refused to contact us. I saw the reaction to our telephone conversation with the President of the United States. I saw the reaction to the high-level meeting in Riyadh. It's really emotional and lacks any practical meaning. Why? Because in order to resolve complex and even acute issues, including the one related to Ukraine, both Russia and the United States must take the first step. What does it consist of? This first step should be dedicated to increasing the level of trust between the two states. This is exactly what we did in Riyadh. This is what the next and possibly other high-level contacts will be dedicated to. Without this, it is impossible to resolve any issue, including such a complex and acute one as the Ukrainian crisis.
And in Rome, the UN Biodiversity Conference COP16 will resume from February 25th through 27th at the headquarters of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Previously in November, COP16 participants sealed a deal which made companies share profits with the owners of those lands they take natural resources from, namely from indigenous communities. Notwithstanding, COP16 didn't make a quorum to negotiate needed environmental agreements back then. Therefore, the event's organizers decided to hold resumed sessions for COP16 to address agenda items left unresolved. Among the main concerning issues to be tackled is to hammer out a financing plan to reach $200 billion a year for nature by 2030, including $30 billion a year for wealthier countries to poorer ones. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.